Hi everyone, and Shalom Aleichem. We didn't want to let a whole year go by without giving you a dose of inspiration from our incredible Women of Valor. So we went back into the vault and we selected one of our favorite Women of Valor interviews from the archive. So in honor of the holiday of Chanukah, we'd like to wish you all a Chag Sameach by sharing the wonderful and inspiring story of Julia Ramirez Stone. So Chag Sameach, and please enjoy A Woman of Valor.
אשת חיל מי ימצא ורחת מפנינים מי יקרא פתח בלב בלה ושלה לא יצר גמלה טוב ולא רע כל ימי חייה דרשת צמר ופשתים ותת בחפץ גביה היסק אני עוד זוכר ממרחק תביא לחמה חגרה בעוז מתניה ותאמץ זרעתיה.
I went to Catholic school all my life, but I really felt at home with the Jewish religion because the center of your life revolves around your family and around, well, first and foremost, your faith, but your family and around the table, around the dinner table. That's really the way I grew up. That's the way my parents, even though they sent us to Catholic schools, and we went to Mass, it was always the family. The family came first. You know, the Jews that were kicked out of Spain, kicked out of Morocco, ended up in Mexico, like many Jewish families ended up. And we're talking over 130 years ago because my grandfather died the year after I was born, and he was 92. So that can tell you the range of the generations. And I was the youngest granddaughter. You know, you read about the Marranos and the Conversos and people that had to hide the religion. And my great-grandfather did have to hide, but it was like never a secret in my family. The family name was Ramirez with a Z, which was really common of a lot of the Spanish last names. I remember my dad used to say that they changed it. That wasn't our real last name. One of the first, the really easy signs to tell who the Conversos were was how devoted they became to being Catholic. Every one of my dad's siblings have passed away, and there were stories. I mean, I don't remember very much, but it was always present. One of my aunts gave me all of the pictures. I have pictures that are over 110 years old, and I think because she wanted me to find something. I grew up in Mexicali, where there were maybe 2 or 3 Jewish families, and they weren't really even practicing. Actually, one of my best friends growing up, who was clearly, I went back to her house years later, and I was like, oh my God, it's all around me, and I just didn't know it. Everyone assumes that I converted because I married Ken. But it was just, my process was a long time before I even met Ken. When I came to UCSD, I was a political science major with an emphasis in international relations, and I started studying Russian politics and Latin American politics, and I ended up studying the Arab-Israeli conflict. After that, I started taking sociology courses and then theology courses. So I started by studying the conflict of Israel, and then I kind of worked back. And then I started taking lessons from several rabbis. I started celebrating Passover, I think my second year of college. I never thought when I was growing up that I was going to get married or have children. Now, I was very goal and career oriented. I wanted to be a successful lawyer. I wanted to go to Washington. I wanted to be an international like wheeler and dealer. And when the time came for that to happen, I found myself in love with Ken. So I had to make a really tough choice. I was at a crossroads. I either marry Ken and go this way, or I go to Mexico City, get my master's in international law. I felt very vulnerable because I knew that whatever choice I made was, the rest of my life. Everything that I had done up until that point was that goal, and then all of a sudden something different was thrown at me. You pray a lot. You pray a lot, and you study a lot, and you have to learn to know yourself a lot. It's not an easy choice to make. I mean, when you fall in love, you fall in love. There's no choice there. But I think it was harder on my mom because, your parents want the best for you. And I was like, Mom, no, I can't be president of the U.S. and raise a family and be the perfect wife. My mother wanted everything for me. I sat down with my kids and watched the Kamala Harris speech, and I was in tears. Did you see SNL? Oh, it's so funny. Where there's Kamala like, and your mother's going to be laughing and dancing and crying. I cried through the whole speech. It's just, I feel like that part of me was there. That all the work that I've done through the years to empower women to have led to a day like that. If I really believe in something, I don't stop until I see it happening. I don't know where the motivation comes from. I suffer from depression massively. It's not something that's easy for me. I feel like I don't do enough, like I should be doing more. And trust me, you don't know the half of the things I do. 8 years since my Women of Valor piece came out, and I still don't believe that I'm a woman of valor. It's still like, wow, but it feels a little more comfortable now than it did so many years ago. Being a woman of valor really opened up doors for me. It has helped me get the courage to, I hate raising money, asking for money. But it's made me address people more personally and basically put my money where my mouth is. I think it's really focused my energy on sharing the Jewish Arts Festival. I know most of the past Women of Valor, and they've made me feel more of a sense of responsibility to give back. Chaya Ertel is a very dear friend of mine, and her daughter just got married, and I had the shower at my house. And I worked on Barbara Bree's campaign for the last year. She came over for Shabbat one night before COVID, and I had a Hanukkah party for her actually last year. So it's just nice to feel kinship with these women who've been recognized. I feel more involved, more invested. I have a friend who laughs because he said that every time he comes to my house, he meets new people. He says, you have a halfway house running there, and it's true. My doors are always welcome for anybody to come in. But things are not so hard to do when you break them down. It's a lot easier for me to ask people, can you help me do this? And I don't care who they are. I'm there. So it's hard for people to tell me no, because whenever they need anything, I'm always there for anybody. And I don't care if I like you, if I don't like you. And that's the way it's always been. That's the way it was with my parents. I mean, every weekend somebody would show up and say, oh, let's barbecue carne asada or whatever. The doors were always open. My doors are always opened, and I treat people like friends with respect, and I always try to do it with a smile. COVID has really cemented for me the reason why I converted many years ago. For example, in the past, I have Shabbat dinner every Friday night at our house, and that's usually when our kids come. So in the past, it was just like, oh, I can't make it because we have this or we have that. And that certainly has changed, in that it's allowed us to be together every Friday night. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I converted so many years ago. I mean, it's all centered around the family. It's all centered around the table, the meals that you have. So COVID, for as unfortunate as it is, it really has cemented a little bit more of that for me. Oh, I forgot to mention, I am a water polo mom. I say it in capitals because I am the water polo mom. Both Max and Ari play polo, and up until March of this year, all our weekends for the last 10 years were absorbed by water polo. Last year, Max was a member of the USA team at the 15th European Maccabi Games in Budapest. And it was nice to meet Jewish polo families from all over the world. Like our religious observance, water polo is truly a family commitment. I think the thing I'm most proud to have accomplished, well, I think overall I would say it's my relationships with my parents and with my husband and with my children and with my siblings. I think relationships are what's most important to me. It was always known that my dad's grandfather in my family was Jewish. And they ended up converting. And his family is kind of hardcore Catholic. And they still are, a lot of them. I lost my dad a few years ago. But when I converted, I think for my dad it kind of came full circle. Because I think he could appreciate that the values that I have now are very much those values that he got to see in his ancestors.
I'm Karen Parry, and now that we're back in San Diego, I'm rededicating myself to the Jewish community that helped raise me, and that will be a big part of my daughter's upbringing.
Hi everybody, I'm rededicating my year to work for the JDC, the Joint Distribution Committee, and saving Jews all over the world. The Joint works in 70 countries, helping hundreds of thousands of Holocaust survivors that are still alive, providing food and services for indigent people, and rededicating the work of the young people in enhancing their commitment to the Judaism that they are learning about, especially now in the former Soviet Union. And it's wonderful to see these wonderful young people getting involved and caring and volunteering for everybody else. The work that the Joint does is remarkable. And I hope that you will join me in dedicating yourself to something as worthwhile.
This Hanukkah, I rededicate myself to building bridges within communities, both within the Jewish community and our larger community. Now is the time for us to rededicate ourselves to coming together.
This Hanukkah, I am dedicating myself to writing my autobiography. Living through the British Mandate was an interesting time. Survivors of the Holocaust came to Palestine illegally on old boats. Who does not remember the story of the Exodus? My father was one of the people helping get them off the ships. I lived through tough times of food rationing, lack of jobs and housing, many wars. I will now dedicate myself to completing my story to leave a lasting legacy to my grandchildren.
This year, I'm rededicating myself to my family. And in this very difficult time, where it's so hard to stay in touch and have physical contact, I'm rededicating myself to my family. And that just doesn't mean my husband, my kids, and my grandkids, but it also means my extended family, my theater family, my work family, my high school friends family, and my community family. I treat everybody like family, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with them.
Sheker